Hello, it's Weekend Handicapper from weekendhandicapper.com. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can win the Kentucky Derby even if you're brand new to horse racing. Before we do though, if you like these kind of videos, if you want to learn how to bet on horses and how to make money betting on thoroughbred horse racing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can get all the latest tips, tools, and resources. Help you win money on thoroughbred horse racing. All right, here we go. What is it about the Kentucky Derby? Everybody wants to win the Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby makes people go out to the track and pay attention to it and bet the Kentucky Derby. They go to OTBs. They sign up for new accounts online so they can bet from home on the Kentucky Derby. And then they wouldn't pay attention or bet on another race hardly throughout the whole year. Could care less about horse racing. What is it about the Kentucky Derby that so many people pay attention to horse racing when they don't any other time of the year? Well, I'll tell you some things that make the Kentucky Derby unique and some of the challenging things that makes it hard to handicap. But I will also give you tips that will increase your chances of finding the winner and the right bets to make on the Kentucky Derby. All right, so the Kentucky Derby. I always tell people, I make this very clear, do not judge horse racing based on the Kentucky Derby. What I mean by that is the Kentucky Derby is unique. For one, it has 20 horses in the field, in the race. You hardly ever get that in North America. We're lucky to get 5, 6 in a horse race at a lot of these tracks. I don't know what the national average is. Probably 6, 7 horses in a race is probably the national average in North America. So you got 20 in the Kentucky Derby. From a betting perspective, that's pretty good, because in the pari-mutuel wagering system, you have 20 horses where that money gets dispersed throughout those 20 horses, and you usually get pretty good odds because all the money's not focused on 1 or 2 horses like it would be in a 6-horse race or a 7-horse race. So the more horses, the money gets dispersed throughout those 20 horses. Typically you get better odds. Short odds equals short prices. Long odds, higher odds equals better prices, longer prices, higher prices. So that's a good thing. Now, the bad thing about having 20 horses in the Kentucky Derby is the potential for traffic trouble, or what we call trouble trips. So 20 horses sometimes can get chaotic, probably most times can get chaotic. So you got to hope that your horse that you're betting on gets a clean trip, doesn't run into much trouble, traffic trouble, doesn't get stuck behind horses that are tiring and fading, and your horse don't have nowhere to go. You got to hope for a clean trip. You can do all the handicapping in the world. Your horse might look the best on paper, but if it runs into some problems, traffic trouble, then you're going to probably lose the bet unless you got a very, very talented horse that can overcome all that. So it's just like driving, some people when they go to work, commute to work, if they're fortunate to have flexible hours, well, they'll drive to work not during those peak traffic hours, rush hour, and you'll get to work on time. You're rolling the dice if you have to go to work during rush hour. If it rains, that'll slow the time down. If you have one fender bender or an accident, that's going to increase your chances of being late for work and not getting there on time. Same principle kind of applies in horse racing. So the Kentucky Derby has 20 horses, which increases your chances of getting into traffic trouble. Another thing that makes the Kentucky Derby unique is this race is for 3-year-old horses. And the distance of the Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles. These horses haven't been at this distance before, so that's an unknown factor. You don't know if the horse is going to get the distance, if it's going to have the stamina to still run competitively that far at 1.25 miles. Some horses are bred for shorter distances. But most in the Kentucky Derby are hopefully bred for classic distances, which is what the Kentucky Derby is, 1.25 miles, 1.25 miles. So that's another unknown. Another thing that makes the Kentucky Derby unique is the crowd. I know 2020 is a different year with no crowds, but usually it's chaos. There's all kinds of noise. There's all these big roars when they're coming down the stretch. There's so many people at the Kentucky Derby that these horses might freak out. You don't know how they're going to handle it, right? They might be overwhelmed by it and off their game, lose their focus. So that's another thing that makes the Kentucky Derby unique. But these tips I'm going to give you hopefully will increase your chances of winning the Kentucky Derby so you can get bragging rights to your friends and your family and hopefully make some money for yourself. Now, I've done pretty good with the Kentucky Derby, but here lately it's been pretty obvious. Obvious horses have won. Good horses, the better horses have won. Short prices, favorites have won. Sure, you're going to every now and then get these anomalies like Jockeys, Mind That Bird, the 2019 Derby with Maximum Security getting disqualified in Big Price Country House being declared the winner. Every now and then you'll get some decent price horses. But all in all, it's been pretty formful here lately in the Kentucky Derby. And that brings me to this. This Kentucky Derby even is a great example, even with 20 horses, even with all the stuff that could go wrong with that many horses at new distances. The Kentucky Derby, the better horses typically win. And I get tired of people talking about how horse racing is just like playing the slots or playing the lottery. Not at all. If you look at the number of times the horse that has the lowest odds, the favorite or low price horses, which they get that way by the majority of people wagering on it, put their money on those horses, which means that's who they think is going to win. Look at how many times low price horses win horse races, even in the Derby. That means it's formful. That means it's predictable in a way. All right, so that's very different than a slot machine or playing the lottery where it's purely games of chance. You don't know. You push the button, then you hope that you're going to win. Horse racing, if you use your brain a little bit and you have a good wagering strategy, you could figure out what horses to bet on that have the best chance to give you the best bang for your buck and return on your investment. Love horse racing for that. All right, so even in the Kentucky Derby, you can see that better horses typically win. Now, how do you find those better horses? How do you find those horses that have a legitimate chance of winning and a legitimate chance of making you money? So let's talk about that. One, they need to be in good form. So form in horse racing means they need to be in good shape. Think about it. If you follow any other sports, even the great Michael Jordan, for those of y'all that are old enough to remember MJ, besides that documentary they put out when he was actually playing, the great Michael Jordan, most think he's the best basketball player of all time. When he came back out of retirement wearing number 45, Air Jordan was rusty. He couldn't get much air. Took him a while to get back into his normal self and started winning some more rings. Same way with horses. You want a horse that's in shape, in good form. So if they've been injured, if they have spotty workout patterns, if you don't know what you're getting, then be careful wagering on a horse like that at low prices. So you want a horse that's been working out fairly well, in good shape, in good form, has been competitive. Even better if it's won its past races, Derby prep races. So make sure, just like any other athlete, make sure that horse is in shape, ready to go, ready to be competitive in the Kentucky Derby. Okay? So that's one tip. that you want to look for. And you can see that in the workout patterns. You can, pay attention to websites or news, or some people even subscribe to workout reports. See how the horses are working out. Make sure they're consistent and they're ready to go. Make sure there hasn't been too many gaps in between the races and they've been running competitive. That's one thing to kind of look for. Can the horse get the distance? Well, we don't know, but the only thing you can kind of go by if the horse has never raced 1.25 miles is the breeding. So take a little time. It could pay off big time, especially if you get a good price on your horse that wins, to research what sires and dams, mom and dads, the lineage, what breeding or what pedigree has been bred for this distance, these classic distances. Now, most horses that get to the Kentucky Derby are bred for that. They cost a lot when they're babies at the yearling sales. There's a reason that these horses are in the Kentucky Derby. They're usually bred for the Kentucky Derby, and they come from good pedigrees. So make sure, if you're not sure if a horse can get the 1.25 miles, check their pedigree. Do a little research. Google it. Just do some research and see what sires and dams have produced the most Kentucky Derby winners or classic distance horses where the distance is not going to be a problem. See, some horses are bred for speed, early speed, and shorter distances. Others at the classic distances. So it pays to do your research, not just with pedigree, but a lot of things pertaining to handicapping horse racing. Make sure the trainer is competent. You want a trainer that knows what they're doing, that's been there before. Typically, if you want to up your chances, sure, there's trainers that you might not know about that have this dream fulfilled of winning the Kentucky Derby, these Rocky stories, these rags to riches stories, like Mehmet Bird driving up in a truck and a trailer with this long shot horse and it won. But there's a reason they made a movie about that, because that's a Disney story, that's a Cinderella story, and that don't happen all the time. So if you want to up your chances of winning the Kentucky Derby year in, year out, look for trainers that know what they're doing, that's been there before, that's had good success in big time races. Of course, Bob Baffert, you got, Trad Brown, Todd Pletcher, Bill Mott, back in the day, Wayne Lucas. You want to make sure that your horse is in good hands with a good trainer, and typically, usually, at this level, big time operation that knows what they're doing. There's a reason these owners employ these big name trainers, because they know they got the goods to get them to the top, just like any other sport, right? There's so many parallels so if you're new to horse racing, but you're a sports fan, just think of it like other sports. Phil Jackson, people paid Phil Jackson good money back when, because they knew they could take that guy could take them to compete at a high level, so, and it works. Bill Parcells back in the day in football. So just think of it like that. Big names, big name trainers that are used to the big stage. It'd be wise to put your money on those. Competitive speed figures, those are the figures in the middle of your program or your past performances, usually in bold. You want to make sure your horse that you're handicapping, make sure that they're competitive. You can easily find what the average speed figure horses won for the Kentucky Derby was. So if that horse that you like have competitive speed figures that are around the average of what wins a Kentucky Derby, or if you see speed figures that are progressively getting higher, that means the horse is improving, usually, then that would be a good horse to wager on in the Kentucky Derby. So competitive speed figures is another one. Good post position. This is really huge in the Kentucky Derby. Generally, horse racing, factors in a little bit on average, like a normal horse race throughout the rest of the year. Certain post positions win more than others, but then a lot of times it doesn't matter. better horses are going to win no matter where they start. But in the Kentucky Derby, it does make a huge difference. You never want to be in the early or the inside post, like the 1 position, the 2 position, especially the 1 position. That many horses, that horse is going, everybody's going to be coming over and going to cut your horse off just like in traffic. And you're going to cut off all chances. There's other bad post positions, but if your horse draws, which means starting from like the mid pack, so like, 4 through 12, let's say, then I think your horse has a good shot if it's got all these other factors going for it. But don't be scared to go for higher horses. Maybe on the very outside it might be tough. It all depends on pace and stuff, because that they have a lot of ground to cover starting from the 20th position, 20 gate. But just don't get too hung up on post position, but know that it does matter some. Just try, if your horse is drawing on the inside, like the 1, 2, 3, be careful. Be careful. That might be a red flag to stay away from those horses. If they're in mid 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth, like I just said, then that ain't too bad. So watch the post positions, okay? Pace scenario. Does the pace scenario set up well for your horse? Remember, we talked about 20 horses in a field. Chaos can ensue when there's 20 horses in a field. In the field, not a field. The Kentucky Derby field. You want to know the pace scenario. How the pace or the race shape, we like to call it. So if you have a bunch of early speed horses vying for the early lead, then that could be disastrous at 1.25 miles. And if your horse is one of those that needs the lead, then you better watch it. If there's so many other horses that are trying to fight for the early lead, you might want to pick a horse and hope the horse you like is going to come off the pace a little bit so it can benefit from all that chaos up front. Those horses get tired from battling each other. Here comes your horse right past them at the finish line or before the finish line. Now, contrary to that, if there's not much speed in the Kentucky Derby that you're handicapping, and your horse, you think, based on pedigree, other factors that we've talked about, good form, can get out front or near the front of the lead, and there won't be too much early pace pressure, then you have a good chance of winning. Because you're banking on your horse to get out there and catch me if you can kind of a scenario. So you want to know how the pace scenario is going to set up. How do you know that? Look at the running lines. When you're looking at the program or your past performances, see where the horse started, and the running lines are how it did throughout the entire race. So at different points of calls, it's called in horse racing. So see if the horse is used to getting out to the fronts. If there's a lot of low numbers, 1s and 2s and 3s, getting out front. Or is it a closer, which means the horse starts from the back of the pack. So you see higher numbers at first, and then they get lower. Lower at the end means the horse won. So look at the running lines. There's plenty of videos and resources online to help you decipher running lines. So you want to know the pace scenario. Is it going to be a fast pace that benefits closers and off the pace horses, or is it going to be a slow pace where it's going to be more advantageous for early speed horses? Typically in the Kentucky Derby, you want horses right off the front, the early leaders, early speed horses. So right couple links off of that, 2, 3, 4 links off those early speed horses. Because that horse is versatile. Those horses, these are horses that like Justify, American Pharaoh, you know, your well-known horses that went on to have tremendous success because they're versatile. If they don't get the lead, I'm still going to beat you anyway. If I get the lead, see ya. You ain't going to catch me. You want horses like that. But on average, horses that sit right off the pace of those early speed horses is where you want your horse to be. So be looking for those kind of horses in your running lines and other resources that you can find online. But the main thing is pace scenario. Pace scenario. And the race shape. Will the race set up for early front running horses? Or is there so much speed that it's going to set up for off the pace and closer horses? The reason Mind That Bird won is because, well, it's probably a lot of different things. The slop, the mud, the tremendous ride by Calvin Burrell that year. But it was a closer. It was a closer so much that the race caller had a trouble even knowing who the horse was because it was coming out of the picture at the last. So, pace scenarios, super important in the Derby. Preferably right off the pace horses typically do a really good job, but try to analyze the pace scenario and the race shapes. One of the funnest, to me, the funnest part of handicap, trying to determine how the race is going to be run. To a lesser extent, these factors, these tips go into picking how to win the Kentucky Derby, picking the Kentucky Derby winner, is jockeys. Jockeys, don't get me wrong, are very important, especially on a big stage. You probably do want somebody that has been there before, but I wouldn't put the most weight in just jockeys. The horse is the main thing, and the trainer getting the horse ready for the Kentucky Derby probably takes precedence over that. But if you got a big name jockey that's had tremendous success, it's not its first rodeo, it's not its first Kentucky Derby, his or her first Kentucky Derby, then that should be another positive factor for you. So big name jockeys on horses that have a chance, big name jockeys that's raced in the Kentucky Derby under those lights, figuratively, under that pressure on that big stage, then that's another positive for you. Horse for course angle, which basically has a race at Churchill, maybe, but I wouldn't put too much stock in that. Good horses don't have to race at Churchill Downs in the Kentucky Derby, which is where where Churchill Downs is where the Kentucky Derby is raced. So you don't put too much stock in that, but if the horse that you like has all these other factors, plus is raced at Churchill and it's won at Churchill or came in first, second, or third, even the more reason to bet it. And then class. Class is super important, don't get me wrong, but the way I see it, most of these horses in this race have earned their way to be in the Kentucky Derby, which means they have class. So all these horses are usually pretty classy. So some Derby prep races are more competitive and probably had better horses in it than others. So, but it's important. Do not get me wrong. Class is important. But in the Kentucky Derby, I think a lot of horses have class. So let's recap. I know it's a long video, but hopefully the time will pay off for you anytime that you bet the Kentucky Derby. All right. So form, make sure it's in good form. Horse is in good form. Can the horse handle the distance? Look for the breeding. Trainer. Is the horse trained by a competent trainer that's been there before, that's had good success in these big races? Competitive speed figures. Make sure those speed figures are competitive or close to average of what usually wins the Kentucky Derby or projects to win the Kentucky Derby. Make sure it draws a good post. You don't want the horse on the inside or maybe not the far outside either, but in the middle, you'll probably have good success. How does the pace scenario set up for the horse? Will it be favorable, the race shape be favorable for your horse's running style, or at a disadvantage, how this race probably will shape up? Jockeys, make sure, I shouldn't say make sure, but consider a big name jockey. If a big name jockey is on your horse, all the better. If not, I wouldn't, and your horse has all these other positive factors, I wouldn't discredit your horse. Because I think any professional jockey could probably get it done. Then horse for course. Minor factor, if it's raced at Churchill Downs before, all the better. If not, don't worry about it. In class, if it has class, make sure it has class. but they usually will if they're in the Kentucky Derby. So hopefully all these tips will give you a leg up, a better than average chance to win the Kentucky Derby. And hopefully you can make some money. At the very least, have some fun with the Kentucky Derby. The biggest horse race each and every year as far as the buzz it gets, the attention it gets. So hopefully these tips will help you out. They've helped me out in the past. I didn't get rich off the Kentucky Derby. I hope so. I've hit every bet on the Kentucky Derby except the Superfecta. That's still a bucket list thing. I'll be looking for a video concerning the Kentucky Derby Superfectas in the future, but I've had some good success with the Kentucky Derby. Now, maybe not so much picking the winner, but having exactas and trifectas and all those vertical exotics like that. So with this many horses, it's so much fun to bet, so much fun to handicap, and it's so much fun to be a fan of the Kentucky Derby. So hopefully these tips will help you out, help you handicap and wager on the biggest race of the year, the Kentucky Derby. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And I am the weekendhandicapper.com. Good luck to you on the Kentucky Derby or any horse race you bet on. And until next time, happy handicapping and smart wagering.